Greetings, everybody. I hope you are doing well here in the doldrums of summer. I can promise you that where I live in Florida, it is quite hot and steamy, and all the things that, if you've ever lived in Florida, you know to be true, and if you visited here, you've experienced, and if not, you've heard about it. it's it's a sauna. We're going to be talking today about kindness, guys, and I have a guest. I think I've told you before that I get a lot of, probably two at least a day of people wanting to be on my podcast, and it takes a lot to grab my attention, and I don't have guests all that often to begin with. But Michael really interested me with his topic and talking about kindness in executive leadership. So we're going to do a deep dive in that. So, Michael, thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm very happy to be on the show.
Well, I like for you to introduce yourself and tell us whatever you want us to know about you.
Sure. My name is Michael Neece. I'm the president of Our Future is Kind. I am a keynote speaker and writer and podcaster myself. And I guess what you need to know about me is that while I've been in five different industries leading up to this moment, really the thing that ties them all together is the people. I absolutely adore people. I love meeting new people. I feel like every time I'm in the presence of somebody new, it is a treasure. And it's something that I can learn from that person, whether it's not the best interaction or it's something where I'm really learning something new or feeling warm and fuzzy. One way or another, it's the people that make the biggest difference for me. So that's why my big topic is all about kindness and finding better human
Mhm.
connection.
I love that. Your heading or the when you presented the topic to me was about why it's the most underrated strategy. So we're going to really dig into why it's such an important thing. Starting with that, why is kindness the most underrated strategy? What's going on?
It is hard to gain the trust of people you work with if
Mm.
there is only surface level engagement. If you
Mm.
find that people just, say, "How are you?" "Oh, I'm fine." And then you move on to the deliverables and the timelines and the quarterly reports. What you find very quickly is that people are there for the paycheck and they're not there for the purpose. And that is the biggest problem that I have seen today is that if somebody really believes in the purpose of all of the work that you're doing at your company, at your college, wherever you happen to work, if people really, really believe that purpose and they are there for that, they will work extra time. They will put in the blood,
Mhm.
sweat, and tears. They will do what it takes to get to that end goal. And if they have a really terrible manager, they're ready to put in notice as soon as they possibly can. So kindness
Mhm.
is that one thing that helps with retention. It's the one thing that helps with people being innovative and hardworking and efficient.
I just recorded a podcast that dropped talking about. I did a organizational change series, and the last episode of that was embracing the pushback. And one of the things I talked about was when you have a team that doesn't already trust you, either because you maybe haven't earned that trust or you're brand new to the role, and here's day one. Hi, my name is, and guess what? We're going to move everything and change and make everything different. It's going to be such an uphill battle. And I talked about, I kind of laughed as I said it. If you didn't already have the trust, don't expect to gain it in a time of stressful organizational change. It's not likely that needle is going to move in any direction other than downward.
That's the exact right insight of trust is very easily lost. And it is something that I mean, Brene Brown, I love, has this,
Yes.
wonderful idea of the trust jar. So Lisa,
Mm-hmm.
you and I have a new relationship, and so we're getting to know each other, and we're putting marbles in each other's trust jar. That, when we say something and we follow through on it, that is one more marble. And it's easy to tip over that entire, jar if somebody doesn't show up the way that they're supposed to. They don't deliver the way that you expected them to at the right time. Yeah, you can lose the trust very, very quickly. And one of the easiest ways to lose trust is to tell somebody to be quiet and sit down. This is how we've always done it.
Mm.
So just bow to that. Oh my gosh, that's the quickest way to lose people and to lose their engagement and their great ideas.
Oh my gosh, we could talk about that for 2 hours. Uh, so if companies, are you seeing that a lot of work is being done around that? Or if not, why do you think it's not being done or not being acknowledged as important?
Around kindness and culture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, it really depends on the company. I think leaders within any organization usually are the ones who set the tone.
Hmm.
And so if those leaders are engaged and they're willing to be told, "Hey, I don't think that's right."
Mm,
Wow. I mean that already sets the tone of I don't think I know it all. You are, part of this group. This is, there's a reason we hired you. You had to have 5 interviews. Well, this is the reason why, because I'm going to trust you now to tell me when I'm wrong, right?
mm,
So at some companies, I've definitely seen where culture is worked on, and it is not lip
hmm.
service. I've also seen companies where corporate culture has been really strong, but then shifts over time, whether it was COVID
Yeah.
or it was new leaders who came in or it was some other big change. You can lose culture if you don't focus on culture.
I have, yeah. Oh, you're so
One,
right.
one of the phrases that I tell people all the time is that what a leader tolerates is what they cultivate.
Mm,
And that is just something that I've seen so often. If you have somebody who is hired into your very good culture, and this person is really self-centered and they think they know it all and they trample over people during meetings and they don't treat other people with the same respect that you've been having in your culture. Now, if the leader makes the choice to say, well, I'm going to tolerate that behavior, that's now what they're going to cultivate. It now has become a thing where new person X is allowed to just dominate and they're allowed to butt people out of
hmm.
conversations and do inappropriate things, and before you know it, that is the culture.
And it can be one person and it can make all the difference in the world. Michael, I remember being in a room where we were hiring a key person at the last university that I worked at. And it was a pretty high level, I think it was a VP level. And we had not had the role before, it was new. And our university, the tagline, or kind of, it was known as the Harvard of the Midwest. So
Mm.
very high admission standards, really smart students, a lot of very well educated professors. This man had clearly not done his homework, and someone in the room asked a question that he completely misunderstood. And I don't remember the question, but what I remember was it spoke to, like, the difference in our students and something about that quality of student. And he took it as like, they were the bottom of the barrel and that they were going to have to get, like, come up to a certain level. And I certainly put that on my evaluation form, and I have it on very good authority that many people did. But you know where he went to school? I'll just guess.
Was it Harvard?
Yes, it was Harvard. And they wanted him, they had Harvard instead of stars, they had Harvard in their eyes. And he was a bad fit from day one. He was still there when I left, but didn't last much longer. But he created a swath of destruction through that campus because of his mindset. And we just had to have him, we thought.
It's really interesting. The hires that we make are key to our future progress. And
Hmm.
then how much we listen to those new hires is really that's the bread and butter. That's what's going to make it work or not. And that's what I've
Hmm.
seen happen at many different corporations where, I've been a consultant and have been asked the question, why do things suddenly feel broken? And I say, well, what are the shifts that have happened? Oh, well, we hired some people a little while ago. Okay, well, what are they doing? We're not really sure. Oh, well, that's probably a good indication right there that maybe you need to engage more and make sure that you're listening to these folks. Yeah, that's it's When people are curious, you don't have that wrecking ball who goes through the campus and just knocks over,
Right.
people and projects and entire groups.
Uh,
Just like you said.
So interesting. So, in your work, I want to know a little bit more about how people come to you. So, is it primarily companies coming to you saying, we need this work in our culture? Is it individuals? Are people coming on behalf of someone? And, so who are these people that are coming to you? And then how are they presenting the problem?
So people come from all over the place. I've had former employers approach me to come do keynote speeches. I've had people through cold outreach on my part. I've had people who've heard something I said on a podcast or in a clip of a podcast that got posted in socials. And I've had people just, reach out and say, gosh, where did you come up with this idea? Or how can I learn more about this? And as they funnel into my world, sometimes people actually stumble across my book, and that's how they find me. It's like, oh, this spoke to me, chapter 3 in particular. Um, and then the problems are just all over the place, Lisa. Just like you would imagine, you have people who are upset about return to work mandates. You have employers who don't understand why a certain generation of employees don't act the way that they're expecting all generations of employees to act. So I do get all kinds of questions and worries. I do have to say, as the father of three daughters who are 22, 20, and 17,
Oh,
it's different. It's a different culture. It's a different mindset.
yes.
Whereas you might have, let's just say that you're at a company where there are reductions in staff. If any of those reductions involve people who are in their mid 20s or slightly younger, they might be live streaming, hey, yo, everybody, I just got
Hmm.
laid off. And you will rush over to them and say, no, 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 this is confidential information. You're not allowed to do this. Well, they're used to posting every last little bit of their lives. And so, and I know that's a generalization, but it's a fairly accurate one. They're looking for likes and people subscribing. They're looking to be validated on what their experience is. So there sometimes it's that generational gap where I can sit there and say, well, here's what I know and here's how I know it. And thank goodness to my middle child for that piece of information, right?
So it isn't always that they're coming to you and saying, the CEO isn't kind. It's a lot of different problems, but is it kind of, do you find that it often boils down to the kindness issue?
Very much so. I mean, a lot of people are worried about their team working skills, or they're not hitting
Mhm.
their deliverables at the right timelines, or they are under delivering and they're having a bad quarter. Well, a lot of that boils down to, are you listening to everybody on your staff? Well, is everybody on your staff, do they feel comfortable speaking up? I mean, one of the things about kindness is that as soon as you start to lose it,
Yep,
good people get quiet. Great
absolutely.
ideas, great ideas are not spoken aloud because the people who have been saying them are told to be quiet, sit in the corner, take this coloring book, don't bother me. Right?
Yeah.
And that's a matter of kindness. It sounds like it's a matter of expertise. It sounds like it's a matter of domain knowledge or something else.
Mm,
It isn't. It's all about, am I hearing the people I've hired, contributing in the ways that I would hope a healthy staff would be doing that. And so
mm.
people approach me about all different kinds of problems. Why are we not
Okay.
communicating well? Well, communication has a lot to do with setting the right tone as a leader and
Mhm.
also being very kind across all the different strata within your company.
And I'll push back on one thing, Michael. They're not being quiet, they're just being quiet to you. They are
Oh,
speaking, they're getting louder at home and with their coworkers at the
mm.
bar, at happy hour, in the break room, hiding in the restroom.
Sure. Sometimes on social media,
Yes, exactly.
and that is the last place you want them to be vocal about how you're not listening. Yeah, for sure.
I was just listening to a podcast where I shall not name it, but we all know who I'm talking about when a major platform was purchased by someone, and
Mm,
they eliminated about half the workforce, and some of them didn't even get notice. They were just
mm.
shut down and couldn't use their tech. And if you can't anticipate where that's going to go when they already work for a social media platform, like, guess what they're
Yeah,
going to do?
right, right. I mean, if, some people will fight fire with fire if they feel like they've been fired upon too many times.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, what do you experience with executives in terms of their fears? What kind of pushback do you get around this idea of becoming more kind? What are you hearing?
I think a lot of corporate leaders worry about being seen as a pushover.
Hmm.
Absolutely, I think those of us who want to listen, who are interested in good teamwork, who love good communication, who are willing to admit when we are wrong in front of lots of people,
Hmm.
I think there is a worry that I will appear weak. I will be a pushover. I'll be a doormat for somebody. And I think the exact opposite is what really happens. But I think that's one of the fears that we have to get through before I can really get them to hear me. Um, if you are seen as somebody who is a know-it-all, who is going to
Hmm.
shut people down,
Yeah,
I think that's much, much, much worse than being perceived as somebody who might be a little too ready to hear ideas. Now, I have to say, I think there's a good time for healthy debate to end and decisions to be
sure.
made, and you have to align and you have to move forward. If there was not good, healthy debate, though, understand that people may still want to be vocal and they may still think that you haven't heard them because you haven't. That's
Hmm.
different, right? So it's a
Hmm.
matter of being able to truly, genuinely hear the arguments and then make data-based decisions, right?
Mm.
If you're making an emotionally based decision, like everybody has to be in the office 5 days a week, well, if that's the decision, show me the data where that worked, because I'm going to tell you right now.
Exactly.
I'm going to tell you right now. I was in charge of a team. I was one of many leaders. I did not do this by myself. My mom would have you believe I did it all by myself, but I didn't. But I was one of many leaders on a team that helped develop one of the first treatments for COVID right when everything fell apart and everybody had to go home and try to do their jobs from home. I was working in pharma. We were trying to
Hmm.
develop this treatment and we were trying to prove whether or not it was one of the best treatments that would be available. So it was being compared with aspirin and all of the other things that were being tried,
Sure.
right? We were all remote and we already had been remote for 6 years. And so we were very well suited to help solve this problem. And we did. And we did it at lightning speed. And so I bring that up just to point out that if you're going to tell me that we have better communication when we're face to face,
Mhm.
but then you say everybody has to return to the office, but then you won't pay for travel from remote sites for those people to come to you, then it really becomes more of like, why are you making this decision? Is this data based, or is this your way to try to get people to self layoff? Is this your way to
Mhm.
try to get people to, decide that they have to move on, and so you don't have to do the dirty work? I, I question a lot of the things that are being done in corporate America these days, where they don't show you the data, but they make a very strong decision and say, don't question it. Ooh.
Exactly, exactly. And the data with that specific example of return to work, the data can answer the question about why does this department actually need to be in on site 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, and why this team gets to work dispersed. But I say the companies that have just made that blanket statement, everybody's back in the office, they're at the back of the line when it comes to hiring top talent because we're onto them now. We know the truth and we're not standing for it.
One of my favorite hybrid circumstances is Apollo 13. You have three astronauts on their way to the moon. They have this massive problem with an exploding oxygen tank. And then they have to collaborate with people back on Earth to try to get them home. They didn't have to come into the office. They were at their remote site and they were making it work. And that's the other thing is that when NASA was trying to solve this problem, you had people at multiple sites who had to try to
Mhm.
communicate. So it's about the communication, it's about the listening, it's about the curiosity, it's about getting the people with the right skill sets plugged into the right positions. If it's one size fits all, everybody return to the office, I'm really skeptical because I don't know that you're really listening.
I love that. I love that. So you're getting a lot of pushback from executives about I'll be too soft, I'll be perceived as a pushover. How do you go about changing that mindset? Is it a matter of like, hey, let's try it my way and see what happens? You saying
Right.
that, or is it, I, what do you have to do?
I think the first thing is that they're usually approaching me because they have a problem.
Okay.
Something isn't clicking. And so the most obvious argument is keep doing what you're doing and let me go home and see my dog and my cat and my kids. Because if you're determined to just keep doing what you're doing, regardless of what I say, then we're not going to make the headway,
Hmm.
right? So that's a big piece of it. The other thing is, what does it cost you to try something new,
Mm,
right? Um, I love the expression, do it nice or do it twice, right? If you're going to keep on just doing things the way you've been doing it and things keep breaking, you're going to have to do them over. So don't you think maybe it pays off to improve those systems, improve those processes, and then do it really well that first time so you don't have to end up doing it twice in the future? So
mm,
that's also a very strong argument for, okay, if we're not hearing each other, if we don't have good communication, if there's not enough trust, then let's go ahead and get it right the first time. So I think these are the arguments that usually win the day. There's one other argument which I love to make, which is I don't know if you've ever heard of a book called Young Men and Fire, written by the same author as A River Runs Through It. Almost everybody knows that book.
yeah.
So Young Men and Fire is about Wag Dodge, who was he was the fire chief who had to respond with paratrooping firefighters in Montana back in 1949. There was the Man Gulch fire, and it didn't seem big, and then it became this big thing, and most of the people in his care died.
Ooh,
And when they went back and they did an analysis of what happened, it was that they had plugged him in because he was really good at his job. He had a great track record, but he also never had time to really work with the crew. So they didn't know him. They didn't trust him. They weren't really sure about him. So when they got up, he was giving good orders, but suddenly new things happened with the fire that they didn't expect. He tried to
mm,
give them some orders. They told him to buzz off, that they were going to handle it the way they were going to handle it. He and one other person survived, and the other, I think, dozen or so all perished in
oh
that
my
fire.
goodness.
And so it's just this great example of when you are cultivating trust. In that case, you're saving lives. In most cases, you're saving broken deliverable procedures and steps that you have to redo and then miss
Right.
deadlines. So it's not usually high stakes like life and death. But when I was working in the pharmaceutical world, it could feel like life and death because the longer there's a delay to get a drug to market, the more people are
Hmm.
suffering and waiting and hoping for something to come save them, and it's not there yet. So yeah, the idea of cultivating that trust, that's where everything lives.
So interesting. And it really, to me, highlights the importance of that first 90 days is an arbitrary number, but it's a good number on the job and setting a leader up for success by not dumping like, okay, this is your show now, and change it. Please change everything by next Tuesday. That is there's no runway there to gain the trust and to get to know the people. But from the leader's perspective, they don't have the opportunity to see who needs to do what in this huge change because I don't know these people yet.
I think you've hit exactly on it, Lisa. It's that getting to know you period. I mean, everybody, well, a lot of people roll their eyes when they hear, oh, we're going to do some icebreakers to start off this getting to know you session. And it can feel a little contrived, but guess what? So is dating, so is raising children, so is bringing kids into a classroom and trying to get them ready to learn for an entire year. If you don't do it, then at some point things are going to break. Somebody within that relationship is going to say, "Oh, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that that's what was going on, and that's why you approach things the way that you do." Whereas
Hmm.
if you take that time, you then make things faster, more efficient, more fluid. People are able to look at each other and with a glance, they know what the other one is thinking, as opposed to let's reshuffle the organization again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's leave some people out. Oh, eventually, people say, I don't know why I'm working here. I forgot why I came to work today. So having
Hmm.
that trust is just as important as having the purpose and mission laid out for the company. If you've got those two
Hmm.
things, you've got really good odds.
When I lived in Northeast Missouri for about a decade, I was the chair of the Leadership Institute through our Chamber of Commerce. So I had gone through early in my tenure in Northeast Missouri, and then I was asked to be a chair, the chair. And I am a master practitioner of the Myers-Briggs, and that's a tool that I really love in bringing in for team building, among other things, communication, leadership, all of that.
Mm.
And so the first session with this group was always a full day retreat off site. And we were in a very rural area, so we could really be off site. Like they couldn't leave if they wanted to. They couldn't escape. There were usually livestock around keeping them in. If they tried, they were going to run into a livestock. But I used that tool. We would kind of spend the morning uh, interpreting their results and helping them to understand themselves. And then after lunch, the focus was on understanding each other. And I would look very strategically at the group and the mix of the group to see what activities I wanted to engage in to really point out their differences in how they make decisions, how they take in information, how they orient to the outside world, those kinds of things. And and then we would use the Myers-Briggs two other times throughout the 9 months or so that we were together. And what I saw was it was like speeding up that getting to know each other and getting to know uh, personally, but also what will they bring? Because they had to do a class project. So they needed to know strengths and all of those things so that they could make some decisions about what class project to do and who did what. And they would use it, they would use that language, and it was fun to watch that process, not only in that first session, but as we used it in figuring out their class project. We used that Myers-Briggs framework for decision making, and then we used it at the end, the last session, for some activities. And it was really fun to compare the difference in how they worked together at the end from the beginning when they were just getting to know each other. But it's just such an important piece because otherwise you got a bunch of strangers in a room together who are supposed to do a project together.
That's so hard. Yeah.
They meet once a month and we're supposed to like, whoa, okay, sure.
Right. I love Myers-Briggs. I'm glad you brought it up. ENFJ, by the way.
Oh, so
Um,
am I knew
oh,
that's
really?
why we that doesn't surprise me at all because I felt so connected to you, and we ENFJs hard
Yeah.
on the sleeve. You know, I bet you like no one cries alone in your presence. Like I have a
Right.
strict policy.
Right. Right. Yeah. The ideal teacher, I guess, right? It's one of
Yeah.
the framework. Yeah. Myers-Briggs actually saved a relationship of mine with one of my best friends in the world because before I'd
Wow.
ever heard of Myers-Briggs and really gotten into some of the frameworks, I had this friend who's incredibly intensely introverted. And I did not understand what exactly that was. What is introversion? What do you mean you don't want to go with me and hang out with lots of people right now? How is that possible? But the more he understood me and my excitement about being around people, and the more I understood him and his excitement about being around one or two people in select circumstances, but otherwise having time to recharge on his own, like until that moment, so, but it's another great instance of curiosity, right? the more
Mhm.
that I can ask you questions about, oh, tell me about your E, tell me about the N, like how do you
Mhm.
think about decision making with your J, right?
Yeah.
The more I know you without really having to deeply explore every single piece. So I love that it's great shorthand for
I
anybody
love
in a
it.
team.
I love it. And my daughter-in-law is a devout introvert.
Mhm.
And I found a video on social media just a few days ago that I sent to her, and she got such a kick out of it. But it was a barn, and there was a bunch of goats, very large milking goats, right? And they're all just, you know how goats are. They're just
Sure.
in each other's business. And then there was a few cows standing around and maybe a horse. And there was one goat who was laying down facing the wall.
Okay.
And it made a comment about like, you're that something about your introverted friend. It doesn't when you're done with peopling or something like that, and I got such a kick out of it, and she really related to it. So it does help to understand and also kind of bring out those, this is not something that's wrong with you or with me. It's just we're different, and here's a little thing about it. So I like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So a company or a person decides to work with you.
Yes.
What are the first things that you do to get the ball rolling? What I'm really asking is we talked a little bit about kind of like trying it my way, but how do you really get in there and implement change?
So, not to pitch my book, but the book In Kind is something that I wrote with 9 different chapters, and it has different exercises, reflections, and so forth at the end of every single chapter. And so, what I do is I ask, I mean, if I understand what their problem looks like in general terms, I might know which chapter to flip to in terms of what kinds of activities we need to do. So if it's an individual, let's say that they're fairly early in their career, they don't really know how to network well. They don't really know how to make sure that they're in the right place doing the right thing and learning and
Mhm.
growing. And so we may flip open the mentorship chapter and really dig into that. Like, how do you find the right mentor? How do you make sure that you have somebody who's in your
Mhm.
industry, who really gets what you do and can see some of the pitfalls before you trip over them? And so
Mm.
that's where we would start is, okay, let's evaluate who's in your circle. Why would this person be a great mentor? Why is this person maybe not? We also talk about the network. We would talk about, who are your 5 closest companions within what you do? Because
Mhm.
there's this study that says you're the
Yeah.
average of the 5 people closest to you, and I believe in that very deeply. So if they have somebody who's in their network who really isn't quite right, maybe not quite so trustworthy, like they're the ones who engage in the gossip at the water cooler,
Mhm.
right? Then maybe that's not a person you want to focus your time on. Maybe you want to focus your time on somebody who's a little more, quieter, but has been doing this job for a longer time. Maybe they have some interest in common with you. So that's really where I start is with this personal inventory of what are you looking to get out of the relationship with me so that I can make sure that we have, salient goals that we can, reach by the end. So
Love
if it's
that.
an individual, that's how I would be approaching it. If it is a group and they want me to come in and share some of these, strategies that are based in kindness that help
Mhm.
with team building, then I want to know what is their agenda for their entire meeting. What are the themes? What are the things that people struggle with? And one of my favorite things to do is to say, give me 3 people to interview. I want to know 3 people who are going to be in attendance at your event so I can hear from them an unvarnished version of what do they worry about, what keeps them up at night,
Ah.
where do they feel stifled, where do they feel like they've been lauded for the great work that they're doing. And then that way I have a lot better idea of how to prepare for if it's a keynote, then what are the
Mhm.
strategies I'm sharing during that keynote? And if it's a set of workshops, for instance, then I know things to approach the event planners with and say, I think these are the key things we need to hit.
I love that. I love that. So as we kind of reach the end here, my listeners love takeaways. So after all of the things that we've talked about, what are maybe 3 thoughts, exercises, activities, next steps that you would recommend, really practical things that they can do to perhaps move the needle in their kindness or in the kindness of their organization?
Absolutely. I love the question, Lisa. So, if you are hearing this or watching this and you find that there are obstacles to you living your values of being kind to other people, for instance, it is the person who is cutting you off on the highway as you are trying to make your way home after a very long, hard week. That person who is cutting you off, how do you deal with them? Somebody sends you a really mean email and they broadcast how badly you did on a project in front of everybody else on the project who's on CC. How do you handle that? How can you be kind, but also be firm, not be a doormat? So here's a great practice. One thing that I always advise is it's the favorite person practice. Okay, envision with me for just a moment who your favorite person in the world is. It may be a four-legged critter that you pet. It could be your cousin. It could be a best friend. Get that person firmly in your view. The next time somebody cuts you off in traffic, it's that person.
Mm,
Now that person who's cutting me off to teach me my place in the road, they're not. Now it's my cousin. Why is my cousin cutting me off? Where are they in such a hurry to get to? Why are they driving so crazy? Are they okay? Are they on the way to the hospital? Now I'm curious about what's going on. The person who sent me that terrible email just roasting me in front of people, I don't know what's going on with them. Why would my mom send me this terrible email?
mm,
Now you have questions about what's going on. You can take a few deep breaths, and then you've removed your ego from the situation completely. Before, your ego was getting very much in the way, and I shouldn't have to tolerate this. I don't know. Now
mm-hmm,
it's gone. Now you're sitting there thinking about, oh, I wonder why this happened. And now you're in problem solving mode. And that's way better than, the quick draw McGraw. Oh no, they shot at me. I better shoot at them. Right.
mm-hmm.
So the favorite person practice is one of my favorite things. Uh,
Love that.
so that is a really good one that I use all the time. Another is the Navy SEALs have this idea that you need to live in your 3 foot world. Another way of saying it is control your 3 foot radius. There could be all kinds of things that are going on in the background. You could be hearing rumors of layoffs. You could be hearing rumors of some policy shift that you don't like. There's a person who just got a promotion that you don't think they deserved it. You thought you should have gotten it. What's in your 3 foot radius? What can you control? Because if you are focused on all of these outside noises, you're ignoring what you have power over, and you're giving up all of your power. And this is a deep
Mm-hmm,
kindness to yourself, right? If I allow the news, right? You switch on the news and you sit there and think, "Oh my gosh, I'm so powerless, I can't do anything."
mm-hmm.
Switch off the news. Think about think about, okay, I can vote. I can help my neighbor. I can show up to the PTA meeting, right? Think of the things you control and control those. So
Mm-hmm,
that's a second practice that I would strongly, strongly recommend. The third is meditation,
mm,
and thinking in terms of what you're mindfully grateful for. Everybody talks about gratitudes. Everybody talks about it. If you end up at the end of 90 days with, 100 different things that you're grateful for, that's a good start, but that misses the mark. And the reason I say that is you should be trying to relive the moments that brought you great joy and great kindness because it sets you up
mm,
to be kind to everybody. I am the father of 3 daughters. Sometimes getting a hug from somebody is a really hard deal. Never
mm-hmm,
push it. But when I get one, man, I treasure that. I write that down. That's part of my gratitudes. But after I've written it down, I close my eyes and I try to envision where was I? Where was she? What had we each said to each other right beforehand? How did it feel? What did I do after that? By
mm,
reliving the moment, you've now relived one of the best moments you've had in the past few days. and now it resets you and makes you more, it makes you kinder to everybody around you. So that's
I
the third
love
thing.
that. I love that. Those are three fantastic recommendations. So, how can listeners find you? And I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to direct them to, or that is available for them on your website or something like that.
I would love for listeners to just jump onto LinkedIn. It will funnel you to my webpage.
Okay,
If you want to go straight to the webpage, that's fine as well. It's ourfutureiskind.com. And yeah, reach out to me. If you have 30 minutes that you want with me, I'm happy to offer it to any of your listeners for free
wonderful.
to just sit down and have a conversation about what is troubling you, what's difficult, how can I help you in this moment. If after 30 minutes you've gotten something out of it and you want to establish something else, we can do it. If not, hopefully it's a helpful thing for you to have.
That is wonderful. You all should take my, well, not everybody, I guess. Might become overwhelming, but if that resonates with you, please take Michael up on that. And if you look for him on LinkedIn, it's Michael Neece, Neece. I'll have that in the show notes. And yeah, schedule that call. I think that's fantastic. This has been amazing. So glad to meet another ENFJ. And if you're out there and do not know anything about the Myers-Briggs, it means that we are extroverted, pretty organized, creative types who wear our hearts on our sleeves, and people are attracted to us. So I must say, I can't think of a better line of work for you to be in than what you are doing. It's perfect for, I can't think of a better personality type than an ENFJ to do what you're doing.
Well, and to be able to bond with you during this conversation, just so much fun. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, you guys, I hope that's been helpful and you've gotten some good tips, and I will talk to you next week. Take care.